attention, please. It's time for the final countdown. The show starts in
10. You have a dream? 9. And if you have a goal? 8. I want you to go after it. 7. It doesn't matter your age. 6. And it doesn't matter your race. 5. You can make it. 4. I promise. 3. So go. 2. Be defiant. 1. And live your dream. Unafraid. Defy all odds. I am defiant. There is nothing that can hold back my greatness.
I am defiant.
And the same goes for you. Welcome to the Defiant Ones Teen Podcast, hosted by Kindify. The show starts now. Hey guys, welcome back to another amazing episode of the Defiant Ones Teen Podcast. I hope you all are doing amazing this wonderful, wonderful Friday. We have made it all so far into life and into 2021, as some people would call the third level of Jumanji, but as I call it, another opportunity of greatness. This is the Defiant Ones Teen Podcast. If you are new here, first, welcome. We are a podcast that stems from the Defiant Ones Teen magazine, which is a magazine created by me and my brother a year ago. It talks about the latest fashion, news, trends, sports, etc., all the other things that magazines do. But what makes us special, what makes us unique and different is we are coming from a youth's perspective. We are showing and telling the stories of amazing people around the world of all ages, races, ethnicities, etc., who are defining who they are while also defying the odds or limitations, expectations that life, society, and sometimes even ourselves are put upon. Because truly, I mean, there are so many things that we want to do that we feel like we're being held back from, or there are so many things that we just doubt ourselves for, and that keeps us back in ourselves. So we are defying those. We are going past all the limitations and obstacles. We like to share those amazing, incredible stories on this podcast. And I'm so excited because, I mean, truly, you guys know that I'm a businessman at heart. Yeah, I'm a businessman. But who we have on here with us today is the real businessman. He is a fantastic serial entrepreneur, podcast host, and really amazing guy. I am talking about Kevin Mako. Hey.
How you doing? Good to be on the show.
I am good. I'm good. How are you?
Good. Let me tell you, before I go into it, that was the craziest podcast intro that I've ever been on. That thing, that was beast. Like I'm fired up. I feel ready to go.
Thank you. I mean, shoot. When they get to know your story, they're gonna know why that means so much to me hearing that. So can you tell us just a little bit about yourself before we get started?
Yeah, sure. Quick background. I run a product design firm called Mako Design. We design inventions. So consumer products, stuff that's mass manufactured, gadgets, electronics, household products, pet toys, you name it. Basically mass manufactured consumer products. Our unique spin is we do it tailored to startups and inventors. So early stage companies or inventors, they come to us with their, next big idea. We do all the design, engineering, prototyping, manufacturing, all that sort of stuff. What I'm really excited to talk about today is the fact that I started this thing over 20 years ago, but while I was in high school, then incorporated in university and turned down the job offers and went into this just full steam ahead.
Hey, that's perfect because I was just about to ask you, how long have you been doing business and how were you introduced into it?
Yeah, I've been doing this literally forever in my mind. This is, a lot of people, they do a bunch of things before they find their groove. A lot of businesses and a lot of business people, they, the buzzword, they pivot or change or whatever else. I never did. This business is the same business that I started with when I was, in high school. It's the same thing. Even the business model is the same model that I started in my kind of very infancy back then. And, when I had my training wheels on, and it's the same thing that we're doing today.
Yeah, I mean, and you got to stay the same with that means that your dream hasn't changed.
That's right. You got it.
That's a great thing. So can I ask you a question? Because I mean, a lot of people confuse the term, and I sometimes can't understand it because I feel like it's not more of a term, but it's a lifestyle. What does being an entrepreneur mean to you?
It's funny. I never really believed much in the word business. To me, it's just life, right? And business, it's this term, and people think, oh, it means you had to get an MBA, you had to go to biz school, you had to do this, that, whatever else. I'll tell you, most of the stuff that I've learned about the business world, I've learned just doing it, not from business school. I mean, that teaches you certain fundamentals. There's nothing wrong with business school. I'm a fan of it. I've been to 2 different schools now. I've been to business school and I've been to manufacturing school over in Hong Kong. But let me tell you, some of the best entrepreneurial learnings that you'll have is just by getting in and doing it. And that's really a big misconception that I find in the world is people look at business people and they think there's something unique or special, or they're born with it, or they had some special elements to it. But the reality is the business is more a state of mind. It's saying, I want to provide value to the world, more value than I can just do on my own. So I'm going to create this thing they call a business where I can have other people join my cause, join my ship, so that we can all cumulatively work together to create value for others, right?
Exactly.
Making money is the secondary benefit. The primary benefit is doing something for the world, right? And for us, it's designing inventions, doing the hard stuff, doing the engineering. That's the stuff that our clients cannot do. So that's the value we're providing. And of course, in return, we get paid for it.
That's a fantastic way to look at it. I think I love something that you said in there. You said that business is a mindset. Now, tell me if you agree with this. I believe that business is a mindset, but it's also a part of you. A way that I look at life, and something that my parents have taught me, is that you yourself, we ourselves are businesses, because every day with every action we're taking, with everything that we do, it affects someone. We are selling our best version of ourselves every day. That's why girls and people wear makeup. We dress nice. When we take our photos, we filter it because we're trying to sell ourselves in the best way. Would you agree with that statement?
I totally agree. I actually think we're kind of saying the same thing. I said business is life.
Yeah.
Right? And to me, it's just what are you doing with your life? Even being an employee can be a business in my mind. It's a part of life. Maybe you feel like your best value is as an employee, or is doing, joining someone else's cause or whatever else. There's nothing wrong with that. But keep in mind, at that point, you're limited to what you can do yourself, right? All it is with the business, the only difference is now you're joining people to your cause. And you're the head of that ship, which sounds great, but it's the gift and the curse. What goes up goes down, except it's on your shoulders when it goes down, right?
That's the hard part about it. So can you tell us or run us through just the process of starting a business from scratch and getting it off the ground? And when you do this, can you tell us the best methods for coming about it?
Yeah, I'm gonna approach it too from 2 angles, because keep in mind, I started my business, so I've got my experience from starting this from zero to hero. But at the same token, our business works with hundreds of startups every year. So I can give you tips, not just from what I've done myself, but from working with, over the course of my career, over 1,000 hardware entrepreneurs as they have gone to pursue their dreams, from that sketch on a napkin through to store shelves. So one of the big things that I like to say, especially, for young or aspiring entrepreneurs, something I did when I was back in high school and university, I call it the spaghetti slinger approach. Throw a bunch of stuff at the wall and see what starts to stick, right? The earlier you start and the more you experiment, the exponentially easier it becomes to find that passion or that thing that's really clicking with the market. And ideally, a combination of both of those 2 things. Find something that you're passionate about and the market is also in need of. What value, back to what we were saying earlier, what value are you providing? That has to line up with your own personal passion. And when those 2 things collide, that's really where great business is made.
100%. And how would you, apart from this you said the sling spaghetti?
Spaghetti slinger. So imagine this: you take spaghetti, you throw a bunch of it at the wall, you see which ones stick. Right?
It makes sense. It makes sense. It's just like songwriting. My mom's a international recording artist, and she says that the one thing that they do is literally, and she's also a best-selling author, jot down what comes to mind, even if like you don't have a plan, you don't know exactly what you want to say or do, put it out there so that you have something. So I understand what you're saying, and I think that it's a great method. See what sticks. Just see what's possible. Put it out there so that there's still something for you to come on, so that you're not left with nothing.
Absolutely. And let's break that down into some specifics.
Yeah.
So how do you actually do that? Right? Easiest one, you just mentioned it, keep a journal. That's number one. Right? What are your ideas? You know how many people I've talked to that come up with great ideas, and then a couple of years later, they're like, damn, what was that? I can't remember exactly. I had it figured out in my head. And you need a journal, right? It's got to be logged.
Yeah.
The beauty of a journal isn't just the fact that it helps you remember it, but that's where you actually start to build your informational ammunition. Right? That's where you start to, under each of those ideas, you start to put in more and more info. And as you start to meet people, you start adding them into that document that you're creating, right? Or whatever. It could be a notebook, a notepad, a Google Docs. It could be more official. It doesn't matter, right? The point is you're putting it down somewhere. And every time you start to think about it, research it, meet people, talk to people about it, you're adding notes, and you're starting to validate that one idea or multiple ideas that are going into that book. So that's the easiest thing. You know, most people, they don't do that even out of the gate, right? It takes a while before you actually start jotting things down. It's the easiest thing you do. Download Evernote, put it on your phone, keep track from day one. Every wacky idea you have, just jot it down in there.
Yeah, and that's not only just putting it down, but that's affirming it into the universe. When you write something down, it's literally the same as affirmations, the same as motivation. You say that I am great, I will do good things, I will be a good person. You will be. You will do good things. You
Absolutely.
put it into the universe. So when you write it down, it's not just you putting an idea down on paper. It's you bringing it into the universe for yourself, setting yourself up for success. The first step.
Absolutely. You know, and that's one of those things, say, putting it into the universe. The more that I've got into entrepreneurship, the more entrepreneurship courses and education and guest speaking events and all this sort of stuff, the more multimillionaires and multi-hundred millionaires that I meet, the more you realize there's this, what seems like this strange spiritual element to business, right? Like you just said, you're putting it out into the universe and magically things start happening. But as you start to understand what that really means, it's actually very scientific. The fact that you're writing it down means you are going to spend more minutes than you would spend on that if you didn't. The more you write down, the more minutes you're going to throw into this. The more people you talk to, the more you're putting that out there, the higher the scientific probability, the statistical probability that those results are going to start coming back to you. So look at it from a spiritual element of, you know, I think, therefore I am. But know that there's science backing it. This isn't just some BS. This is how multimillionaires are made. I have never met a self-made millionaire that isn't almost strangely spiritual in the back end, because of how much they understand the value of what you put in is what you're going to get out. And that almost has a spiritual connotation to it.
That was a perfect answer. Thank you.
Hey, well, you were the one that spun it up, right?
Well, let me spin something else for you. How would you come about, and this is an issue that a lot of people face. It's even something that I faced starting my business, Defiant Ones. How do you come across starting a business or creating something without the proper funding?
Yeah, funding's a big question. I'll tell you that the hard, cold answer is that you absolutely need money, and money is easy. And I know everyone's going to be like, oh, hold on a second. Money comes to greatness naturally. So the big misconception that happens is that people believe that, okay, money is a showstopper. But what I can tell you, if you have passion, if you have hustle, if you're pursuing a bunch of ideas and really starting to create value, that money will come. Now, the thing is, it's not going to come until those things start to materialize. And you know it from being in the business world as well. Like, trying to get the magazine started, there's always a money issue. But what you'll see from anybody who's made it to the big leagues is the bigger they get, the more they're actually turning down money. There is more money in America right now than ever before in human history. Household income is at an all-time high as of last month, meaning there's more money sitting in homes across the world than there ever was before. That's at the retail level. That's at the private level. That goes all the way up the chain, all the way up to hedge funds, and all that trickles down, right? Mm-hmm. So the misconception is that, well, I have this great idea, people should dump money in my laps. That's not going to happen. But when you start to create value, and when you are doing all of these things that we were talking about earlier, and really starting to build the business and prove that value and prove that there's something on the there's meat on the bones there, money starts to come. And, one thing that we didn't really drive into that kind of supports the money argument is the hustle. Yeah. Which I find that when somebody to me complains that money is impossible, I turn around, I look at them and I said, have you done everything you can do individually without that money to make your dream come true? And that's when you start to realize that, I've been working hard at this. I've been working at this for 3 years. I said, okay, well, what'd you do yesterday? Oh, I didn't do anything yesterday. Well, I haven't done anything for like this week, but like the week before, I'm like, listen, you're not hustling. You're not working on it. If you're not putting effort into it, absolutely somebody with money who's put effort in to get that money is not going to give you money. So, spaghetti slinger with the idea, try a few things, jot things down so that you start progressing on those things. And then the final, key piece to that triangle there is hustle, hustle, hustle every day. It doesn't mean you have to, sacrifice sleep and all this sort of stuff. But if it's a side gig, if it's something you're doing in addition to school or in addition to a job, there's no reason you can't convince me why you weren't able to spend an hour working on that yesterday. Yeah. Right. Ideally more. But why didn't you do an hour on that yesterday? That TV show could not have been more important than that 1 hour to support your entire future. Yeah. No, that's a fantastic point. That actually is very personal. What you said, I can feel, I can understand, relate exactly to that. And it makes me think of two things. The first is something that Denzel Washington said. I don't know if I'm quoting this exactly, but he said that a lot of us are taking steps and strides where we want to go in life, and we base it off of how much we're working, not off of how much we're actually getting done. So when you said that, when you mentioned the guy working and not actually working, saying that he's doing this but not doing that, that's what a lot of us do. And I can relate to that, because as a teen entrepreneur, it's different not being able to live the life of a normal teenager, because again, we're selling ourselves, and it comes a point where you have to find the balance between business and personal life. And that's kind of where the bracket between successful people and unsuccessful people is the difference, because the unsuccessful people, which I am trying to break my bad habits, because this is not what I'm affirming into the universe. They take time to waste time, if that makes sense. Yep. They want to work. They want to be productive. They want to go accomplish their goals, but they get distracted by everything that comes around them. They change their mindset. They go the other way. Absolutely. They're moving, but they're not going anywhere. That's the first point. The second point is, it makes me think of a question. Talking about the business and starting it and going about all of that, it almost makes me think of, what was it? Not the Wall Street Journal. You know what I'm talking about? Selling the pen. Can you tell us about selling emotion? That's a loaded question. Where do you want me to go with that one? I like it. Let me get to your first point, and then we'll hit the second point of emotion. And I want to make sure I'm on the same thought train with that one too, because there's a few different angles there. But the first things first, in terms of like you said, a lot of effort. Let's assume you're in that situation where you really do believe that you're putting in 100% that you can be putting in. I'm going to ask you to take one other challenge if you're that type of person. And if you're not, focus on this anyways. Priority list. Work is one thing. Prioritize work is the differentiator between the very successful people and the workaholics. The easy way to look at this is it's your 10-point or your 10 list method. So take your 10 top priorities, write them down. So if this business is a thing and you really care about it and it's something you want to do, you're going to put down your to-do list. Who do I have to talk to? What do I have to do? Whatever else. Take a look at that 10, scratch off the bottom 7 things, and then tomorrow focus on only the top 3. Start with number 1, the single highest priority list. Priority 1, priority 2, priority 3. You should not be working on number 2 until you feel your number 1 priority thing has been tapped out for that day. Very few people do this. Very, very few. Even though it makes perfect logical sense. Well, of course, tomorrow I should focus on my highest priority thing. But what they do is they focus on their most urgent thing, the most convenient thing, the most enjoyable thing, not the highest priority thing, that tough call, that nervous presentation that you wanted, or reading or writing something you just don't want to do, that government grant application, that startup incubator application, that university application, or whatever it is, right? That's the thing that you put off and put off and put off, but you're working hard at doing all these things like, cleaning up, doing laundry because you think it's important. It's not. Something more important's there. Building that application to get that startup funding. If you don't do it tomorrow, you may miss that opportunity, right? And you're going to kick yourself for that. So if you can focus on the highest to the lowest priority and do that every single day, and you work hard at it, and you try a bunch of things and see what real value you find in the world and what passion, that is the road to success. And that's where the money will come. So now we talk about emotion. Well, how does that play into all this, right? How do you sell emotion? Motion is tied to passion. And if you're passionate about what you're doing, you're generally emotional about it. Hopefully you can tell from how I'm talking right now. I love entrepreneurship. Even more, I love young entrepreneurship. So as soon as Kindify reached out to me to say, hey, can you be on our podcast? No questions asked. Right? I will be there. You let me know the time and I'll show up, right? Because to me, this is something that I'm very passionate about. And hopefully you can see the emotion kind of fall through there too. It becomes easy. It becomes enjoyable. It's not work any longer, right? It's part of your dream, part of what you're trying to do for the world. And let me tell you, it doesn't come easy. By no means of anything am I saying today is about it being easy, but you can make it an exponentially higher probability of hitting that success with much less hurdles throughout the path if you follow these kind of tips, right?
I'm about to get emotional from what you're saying because it is so wise. I mean, you're literally telling the exact truth. You are telling the key to life. And I really appreciate it. Honestly.
It's a part of it. Look, and I'll tack one extra on. It's learning, right? And you mentioned kind of the key to life. I still look at myself like I have training wheels on. Just the same as I felt like I had training wheels on when I was 16, 17, 18, trying to get any kind of business off the ground, but really focusing on this one, right? You never really want to stop that kind of that heart, that curiosity, that, pursuing your passions or your talents or whatever else. And I think one of the things kind of that you brought up that's really key here is it's not just about business. I said business is life. You said business is more than that, or life is more than that, whatever else. The tips that we're going through today, this is applicable no matter what the heck you want to do. You want to be a creator. You want to be an artist. You want to be a sports star. You want to be in business. You want to be an investment banker, whatever it is that you want to be. These are the tips to make sure that you succeed on achieving the goals that you want, not that other people want, right? That you want.
Perfect. You are on it. So can you tell us about your businesses and some of your work and projects?
Yeah, sure. I'll tell you about a couple cool projects just to give you kind of an idea of what we do. One of the ones that I'm very proud of is PetBot. This thing's hilarious. It's just a little tiny cube robot that essentially sits in the corner of the room, And if you're at school or at work or wherever else, right, you can talk to it through your iPhone. It's got a speaker, it's got a microphone. And look, if you really like what it's doing, you press a treat and it'll spit a treat out to your dog or cat or whatever else, right? So anyways, this is a great example. Young entrepreneur. They came up with the idea. They basically worked with us to do the engineering side of things, but they did the business side. That's our model, right? We focus on design, engineering, getting to production. Our clients focus on, like, they're the owners of the brand at the end of the day. We, of course, help them with a lot of those ancillary things, but we have essentially we're looking for folks with those genius ideas, only in the hardware space. That's our niche, right? We do mass manufactured physical consumer product. We deal with the inventions, right? Kmart or Walmart, Best Buy, that sort of stuff, right? Those are the types of products that we work with, and that's it. But we're generally looking for our hustlers that want to take their invention ideas. They've come up with something and they're trying to get it to market and do it in a serious way, right? And I'll tell you, you mentioned about financing too. I would argue more than half of our clients don't have the ability to finance it from end to end, right? They grow in stages, and that's part of life and also part of business, right? It doesn't happen overnight, but your goal is to get it to the next phase that you can do with your efforts and your funding, right? And then when you get there, yes, then you scale up to the next. You either raise around or get friends and family money or get seed capital or join an incubator or get accepted into something like Y Combinator or whatever else. And you go to the next level, and then and then you keep going, right? As you grow, then you go into professional angel rounds. And then you go into venture capital rounds from there. And then from there, you go into series A, B, C, right? And by that time, that's how, $100 million companies are built. And you've probably seen many examples of those. And, a lot of that's happening in the hardware space. So we're kind of the early stage of that. We're that kind of sketch to first or maybe second production run of physical hardware products.
Good. And I like that so much because you are literally the people that are making others' dreams come true. You are making their ideas, as you said, pen to paper, into stock and shelf. I mean,
you got it.
You are literally making that happen. I think that's what I like the most about it, which really brings the question, why do you do what you do? Why do you provide all of these services, and even like you're doing now, tips for success that are worth thousands, millions of dollars? I mean, so much knowledge for free or right here for free, but why do you provide what you do?
Yeah, you've got great questions. This is a lot of fun. I'll tell you, your whole magazine is around defiance, right? Or going against the odds, right? And this was bizarre. When I was in high school, and then I started this thing in 1999. That was the first massive recession that I was a part of, the dot-com bubble, right? I made it through that. I got this thing going while I was at post-secondary education, going to university, incorporated this thing, spent a lot of time at it. Finally, I graduated and I said, okay, I'm into this full time. Bam, 2007 banking crisis. Not only that, but I was creating something very new. My whole model was, how do I take world-class designers, very talented people out of companies like Dell, Nike, Bose, et cetera, the designers, and apply it to startups. Every single design firm owner that I knew, every marketing folks, anybody who was in the industry was like, oh, no. Look, we avoid inventors. You don't touch startups. You won't last a year. It's all about, you jump over those folks just to get to those big corporate, fat whale clients that are paying revolving contracts, billable hours. That's where you need to get. Any major design firm or any even half decent design firm, it's all about the big clients, right? And I said, I think this is BS. I'm going for the small folks. You guys can all fight over all those things, but my whole model, high-end design to startups. I'll tell you, over the next few years, as we started to grow, as we started to become, in any city that we operated, we very quickly grew to be the leading design firm by any metric. Every single one of these design firms is now, saying, and now we work with startups and, we'll work with inventors too and whatever else. But of course, it's not something you can just make up overnight. Then finally, fast forward a few years later, now towards these times, and basically all those firms have kind of gone away and back to doing their old thing again, because this was our niche. We created it. We were the pioneers. We were the one who defied all odds. I'm the one who's been doing this since high school. We built this industry. So it's almost impossible to compete with us for our tiny little demographic, which everybody said would be a complete failure, right? So, as much as you get advice and you listen to people like me and whatever else, don't be afraid to forge your own path. And that's where the passion, the emotional, that sort of stuff comes through, because I'm a great example of why I just believed in entrepreneurship. And you ask the question, like, what drives me? I only do one thing with my charity or my free time, and it's education. There's lots of great causes out there. I'm not denying any of the other amazing causes, probably some far better than the cause I do, but I know where my heart lies. So the best thing that I can do is help with entrepreneurship, early stage entrepreneurship in particular. That's where my passion's always lied, and that's where it still lies. It's will probably be 20 years from now, right? So that's my little piece of the world that I carved out, and it ended up being quite financially successful at the same time. But a lot of that was driven from that early passion, from like, what do you care for? What are you trying to do, right? I wanted to be the leading catalyst for the hardware innovators of tomorrow. I basically wanted to be, North America's innovation center.
Yeah.
Right. If you've got a hardware, if you got a product, an invention, a gadget, you're a regular person, we're the ones getting you, off the ground. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's our niche. And that's what we've kind of solidified. And that's the only thing that we focus on. And that'll be what we focus on for many years to come.
Most definitely. I want to tell you right now, you're by far one of my best guests. This is definitely my favorite episode. I mean, I'm just having fun listening to you. It's fun, but it's educational. It's truly teaching you, and you're learning a lot, even just by the words that you're saying. But you're not just doing that right now here with us. You do that normally on your podcast. So can you tell us about that?
Yeah, that's the thing I'm most excited about right now. I mean, the business is cool and all that, but the podcast is the thing that I'm spending most of my, let's call it extracurricular time on. It's just called the Product Startup Podcast. It's specifically for hardware startups. So it's fairly niche, but if you're interested in products or product development or design engineering, or how to get a invention from that sketch to store shelves, it's just productstartup.com. So the Product Startup Podcast, we're on every player. So check it out. And of course, you're always welcome to check out the design firm at Mako Design, Mako design.com. We've got almost 1,000 blog articles, all custom curated by us, all about hardware development. So if you're interested in products at all, that's those are the two places to check out, at least just to educate, learn, and plan out from there. Try your spaghetti slinger.
Yeah. Man, you are fun. You are fun, Mr. Mako. So can I ask you, and we'll start to close up a little bit here, who or what is your biggest inspiration?
That is a tough one. For me, I love kind of the big inspirational figures, but I've always been most inspired by kind of the small startups. Somebody who really starts against all odds and deals with kind of thinking it's impossible to do whatever they do and then coming out on top. Those are the people that impress me the most. I think about this one guy, you say inspirational or somebody to look up to. This guy named Bob Ginther came to us. He had this idea for a better toilet plunger. It's like shaped like a triangle as opposed to a circle. He's like, man, toilets today, they're like a triangle. This thing's got way better suction. We designed and engineered it, got it out there. Guy, literally, the way you start selling it is he walks into stores with a box of these things, goes to like these big box retailers, says, can I speak to a manager? And they're like, what? Who the heck is this guy? Sure, fine. He bugs enough people. They send it to the manager. The manager goes, hey, that's a darn good plunger. Right? Starts buying boxes. So that's how he started scale. Like all of a sudden he's selling it all across the country. So,
yeah,
and it just starts to grow like that. Right. So, there's obviously tons of great entrepreneurs to follow and all that sort of stuff. Lots of great figures like Gary Vee and all the rest. But, for me, I get so much inspiration from the small folks to see what like natural human ability is there when you focus on those things, right? You find a passion, something that you're passionate about that's also really valuable to the world, right? Test and refine, make sure people actually love what you're doing. and then work hard at it and hustle. And you'd be amazed, like anybody, even a old guy with some plungers can turn into a big product business, right? And that's the stuff that really makes me tick. That's the stuff that I watch, and it encourages me. It encourages me to encourage others that if Bob can do it, I can tell you a lot of people can do it.
Yeah. And that just goes to encourage the idea that no idea is too small. It's interesting. There is something that I truly believe, when you surround yourself with successful people or people that you want to be like, the future that you want to have, you approach it in two ways. You look at it not as they are bigger, better than you, but they are just where you are going. And the second way is that literally when you surround yourself with these people, again, you attract the success to you. So it's interesting to even have you on the show right now, because a month ago we spoke on a panel for the Save Youth Summit with Mark Cuban and Gene Simmons about entrepreneurship. But I think that I'm really glad you mentioned the plunger, because it's just like that Shark Tank episode that I always think about. The guy who had this type of sponge literally went on Shark Tank selling a sponge, and now that is the number one selling cleanware product.
Yep, I remember that.
I mean, it's insane. No idea is too small.
Yep, absolutely. But I would say, you threw some great names out there, right? Some very powerful people. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I get a lot of entrepreneurial inspiration from those podcasts, right? So if you're looking to kind of figure out how to grow and start a business, there's a ton of tremendous resources. I think about John Lee Dumas, right? Entrepreneurs on Fire, EO Fire. This guy is interviewing all kinds of like early stage startups, but also like middle of the road folks. And I find those are the best to learn from, because those folks that hit the $1 billion businesses, you can certainly learn some great things from them, but you will learn a lot more from the person that kind of is 1 or 2, maybe 3 steps ahead of where you want to be. Ideally vertical, ideally in your space, right? So look up to those folks who are selling $1 million worth of product. And then say, hey, you know what? I'm at 0, but I want to get to $1 million. Don't spend too much time on the folks, other than, of course, some best practices and all that, but don't spend too much time trying to figure out how that person with the sponge ended up selling hundreds of millions of dollars all over the world, right? That's great to get there, but do that when you're at that million and you're looking to get to that 10 or that 10. So think one step ahead. And I find that, when people are looking for inspiration or motivation, mentors, whatever it is, everybody likes to look at the best in the world, right? At the number one, the Steve Jobs, and wow, look what he did with Apple. But come on, bring it back to planet Earth. You're going to learn a lot more from the guy who sold the tri-plunger than you're going to learn from Steve Jobs, who created the iPhone. As at the early stages, for sure, right? And not saying that there's not learning from both. Absolutely, it's just you've got limited time, you've got limited resources. We go back to that priority list, right? Focus on your top priorities first, and then work your way down the list.
100%. And I'm going to be going back and listening to this episode for the 10-step plan you had, because I've never heard that before. And I definitely think that it was amazing. But a lot of what you're saying is amazing, and I definitely don't want it to stop here. So can you tell us where, just again, people can find, contact, book, and support everything that you're doing?
Much appreciated for that. Just check out the podcast. That's my favorite thing right now. productstartup.com.
Got it. And of course, all of his links and socials will be in the description as well. But I have one last question for you, Mr. Mako. What is one last piece of advice, or the most important piece of advice? Because again, you've given so much, but there's always that one that you would leave for any entrepreneur or even just a person looking to go after their dreams, but doesn't know how to approach it.
All right, look, I know this is a bit controversial, and but I'll say it anyways. When you're young, it is cheap and easy to fail. Who cares? Just freaking fail. If you have to, if it doesn't work out, and you have to tell everyone, you know what? I didn't make it, folks. I failed. I'll tell you, that is the cheapest schooling to achieve the most intellectual value you will ever find for the rest of your life. You don't have a mortgage. You don't have a bunch of kids, a wife, dependents, and this and that right now, right? So just go for it. Worst case scenario, yeah, sure, you go bankrupt or something else, right? That's a great story, and I can guarantee you that learning from that will be tremendous. But if it works, it'll change your life forever, right? And I risked it many times. I almost went bust probably 5 times in my early 20s trying to get this off the ground. In fact, every time I succeeded in this business, I essentially doubled down and risked it all again and again and again, right? Until I finally hit a level now where, yeah, I'm a bit older. I'm mid-30s. I do have the wife and kids, the mortgage, and all that crap. So now, yeah, I'm a little bit more cautious, but I still have that entrepreneurial spirit, right? But what I can say is I absolutely don't regret any of it. And for anyone I've met that has failed at the early phases, yeah, it seems like the end of the world at that time. But I guarantee you, a couple of years later, no big deal. In fact, you'll probably have loved it. Listen to all these entrepreneurs, some of them that we're talking about. So many of them talk about the times that they failed and they went bust and how much more powerful it made them and how exponentially more successful it eventually made them. So if you become rich by winning, great, of course, do it. And if the worst case that happens is you learn a tremendous amount that will help you succeed in the future, well, what do you have to lose? Let her rip, right? Give it a whirl.
Give it a whirl. Mr. Mako, you are whirling with success, information, and so much. You are amazing. And thank you so much for coming on the Defiant Ones Teen Podcast. Again, you, as you said, starting at a young age as well, getting to the point that you have came across so much, I'm sure, detriment, failure, and doubt. But you have overcome all of it, and you have defied the odds. So I want you to say loud and proud who you are, what you do, and I am defiant.
My name is Kevin Mako. I run Mako Design. We invent gadgets for clients, and I am defiant.
Yes,
hey,
you
thanks
are.
a lot.
Yes,
really appreciate it. Hey, look,
you.
I'm going to be watching you too. I'm going to be watching you. You are an up and coming star, my friend. So I look forward to seeing your success over the years to come.
Thank you. You have to invest in yourself. It's the most important thing you can do. But you already knew that. Thank you so much. You are amazing. And I'm definitely going to be keeping up with you as well. We will definitely talk later. But right now, we are all good. Thank you so much. Guys, Mr. Mako, listen. I don't want this to be controversial, but just speaking to him for those 40 minutes, it almost makes me feel as if, and I don't want this to be weird, almost like a father figure thing, just because I'm learning from him. Literally, like, this is what he said, what he's doing is, like I said, where I want to be in the future. So being able to speak directly to him, have a conversation is important, not just for doing it for a show, but because I'm literally learning. And this is what you all have to do in your life. You have to learn from what's around you. You have to surround yourself with success. You have to throw the spaghetti at the wall, see what sticks. You have to take these methods, take these ideas, and put them into the universe because they will attract to you. First, happiness. Second, success. Third, money. And if that makes sense, it makes sense. But if you like the stories that we're sharing and you enjoy our content, you can always find us on social media, on Instagram and Facebook at Defiant Ones Mag. You can find me, your host, Christian Kindafy Robinson, on Instagram and Facebook at Kindafy. That's KINDAFYE. And of course, you can always find the Defiant Ones Teen Magazine and Defiant Ones Teen Podcast online and physical magazines on our website, as well as learn more about us, become an advertiser or a sponsor, if you want to submit to be a feature, etc. All of that can be done on our website, defiantonesmag.com. Again, that's defiantonesmag.com. I enjoy what I do. When you enjoy it, it's not work. It's a passion. And hey, I mean, I'm passionate about it, if no one can tell. And like I said, it's investing in yourself. So I'm going to say something I usually would tell myself off of stream, but I feel good about what I'm doing. I feel good about what I'm doing because I look at this banner. If you're listening to us audibly, you're listening to us on all the streaming platforms, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, etc. But if you're watching, you're on Facebook and YouTube currently. This banner behind me is a representation, or even just the literal stack of magazines in my hand is a representation of my legacy, of what we started. So right now, 2021, we started this in 2019. It's a startup. But in the future, this is going to be something that will literally change the world. So again, this is something I usually say off stream, but it's affirming, and it's retelling myself that I am going to have a successful future. So I just want you guys to keep that in mind and to use some of the things that you've learned in this episode into your future, because I believe that you all will make it, you will be successful, and you will be happy. I wish all of that towards you. So I hope that you guys enjoyed. Again, we will be back with another episode next week, so be on the lookout for that. We will post more flyers and details on our social media at Defiant Ones Mag. But right now, I think that I'm about to go get some smoothies, kick back, watch some Netflix. Psych, I'm not watching Netflix. I'm about to invest in myself and actually prioritize my priorities. So I'm about to get on it. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching. I will catch you guys in the next episode. Peace.